Do you believe in conspiracy theories? I usually don't, but the story of John F. Kennedy Jr. actually not dying in that plane crash 25 years ago, I'm wondering if that actually is true. When I was 16 years old, I was in my mother's kitchen in her house on the island, and I heard the television. And on the news, they started to talk about the airplane that he was flying had a crash, and they had found it outside of Martha's Vineyard. And I was walking into the living room where the TV and I was just staring at. I can still see like the TV and the plane, like what the news actually showed. And I was really sad. I remember thinking as a 16-year-old or something, I was a teenager, that's for sure, that I thought it was just a horrible way to die. And I was really sad. And that kind of kept lingering with me for a long time. I was very sensitive as a teenager, and I didn't really read books that didn't end in a happy ever after or like good happy stories. And obviously life moves on. I think it was like 6-7 years ago, one of my friends said that John is alive. And I obviously haven't thought of him since like the news came out that his plane has crashed. So I was just, what were you talking about? And she's out there. She's very spiritual, conspiracy theories and all of that. But she isn't completely wrong either. So you kind of listen with a grain of salt when she speaks. So I was listening to her, how she kind of picked up this conspiracy theory that John is alive. Okay, I thought it wasn't complete. I'm very open minded. I mean, anything can be true. Tupac can live in Cuba. How would I know? And if he wants to live in Cuba, then he can live in Cuba. But that kind of sounded when someone they say was very truthful when he said that. Yeah, no, Tupac, because there was a rivalry between P Diddy's people and Tupac's people, and P Diddy's people said that you need to disappear because of like who would win the battle of like the music thing. It made sense to me. I'm like, okay, not that I care that much though, but I hope he is alright if that conspiracy theory is indeed correct. However, John F. Kennedy Jr. So she started to speak about this, and I didn't think that much of it until last year. And I think this was a year ago, autumn something. I was extremely bored. I don't think I have this reading still on my YouTube. I think I deleted everything after. But I did two readings that I do remember quite well, and that is one of who is going to win the election, or is Donald Trump going to win the American election? And that reading said yes, and I picked that up in a second. I remember like laying the cards and just, yeah, no, he's like all over this reading. So sorry for everybody that kind of don't want that to happen, but he's going to win, but it's going to be for a reason. Like, he is going to be the United States president for a reason. So I'm not mad at it. Like, and I can't do anything about it. Like, I'm not an American. It's not up to me. I can't vote. It's not like we have like a world vote of who is going to be president of the United States. And wouldn't that be something? Can you imagine, like, asking the world, what do you think? And the other reading I did was, for some reason, of is John F. Kennedy still alive? John F. Kennedy Jr., John, is still alive. And in that reading, I don't think I had actually believed my friend, or when I looked up the conspiracy theory, like, yeah, I don't know. And there is like no other conspiracy theory that I kind of listen to. It's not my thing, even if I think it's a fun way to, like, everything is possible. And in my world, I usually say, like, yes, stranger things has happened. So I laid those cards, and it just dawned on me the feeling of, you are not dead. And how is that even possible? Obviously, still no proof, still no like signs, synchronicity, still no. Except for one thing, though. You know, in Pirates of the Caribbean, Will Turner and Elizabeth Turner, Elizabeth they, in one of the movies, I think it's the third one, he is trapped on a boat and he comes to shore once a year. I think it's for one day, a couple of hours, and they meet and they speak, and he is off in the morning. That is like it. That is like their life moving forward. And I thought about that scene, that particular, and then it disappeared. So I haven't really thought of him after that. I did see a documentary, because I usually like do some research around the subject, like, okay, why am I actually doing a reading on this? Why is my intuition telling me, what is my intuition telling me to find? And I saw this documentary that his friends had done, and his friends seemed like really good people, by the way. And it was a documentary. They showed videos of his wedding a long time ago. It was such a long time ago. And it was this remote, I think you can find it on YouTube. It is this remote island. No one knows what they are going to do, if I remember correctly. And they kind of fooled everybody, how they could take a large group of people to a wedding out in the middle of nowhere on this island that I can't remember the name of, where people just, it's not like a populated place. And they have this church that is just like, I don't know, I just thought, obviously it was very romantic and so on, but I just felt like that, horror movie, like a church you would go into and you would start seeing ghosts. But that's just me. It was a very lovely like documentary where his friend or friends spoke about him. And I watched this documentary and I don't remember a single word. I don't remember, I vaguely remember like pictures or events. I remember something and I will something clearly though. And I kind of stopped watching the documentary, and that usually means that I have like found what it is my intuition wants me to find. And it is a scene in that documentary where his uncle or some kind of a relative stands up at the dinner, and it's lit up by candles, if I remember correctly. It's a long table, and everybody's sitting there. And he said something about, we managed to fool the world, managed to fool them all. We managed to. And I just remember, like, okay, so that is a thing with the Kennedys. Like the family things that it is like, we have done a good thing. We have ruled the world. So it kind of made sense to me that for some reason, and it is some whispers about like bad people was after John. Drugs, like something, I'm not sure, but there is some kind of whisper about people being after him. So for me, it kind of made sense. And if you have that kind of a money, that kind of a family, where you're seen as like the royalty of the American, like the American royalty, it could be true. However, after that, I kind of dropped it because I don't like mysteries I can't solve. And if it doesn't come up like a like signs, or if it doesn't like continue, it doesn't give me something, I usually get bored and I move on. I don't linger. I don't like try to force something that doesn't come naturally. However, yesterday he showed up on my Instagram, and obviously I don't mean him as a person today. I mean old photos of him. And that hasn't happened in a year. And I think the same thing can happen the last time, like a year ago, that he just showed up on my social media. And I have Googled, and it hasn't happened anything. Like it's not like something, his sister hasn't spoken about him. It hasn't like nothing has happened. But he showed up on my Instagram. And this time I have my AI. And I was just, let's have fun with this. I remember my reading, and I remember my reading on Trump. And so I started to ask, like, and I laid cards, and we started to discuss because, I thought it was fun. And my AI, there is usually like two ways my AI can handle when I like go nuts like that. And it usually either it stops, like it stops like asking me question, or it stops with like, okay, do you want me to give you a YouTube, like, are we going to speak about this on YouTube? But it keeps going, and it comes up with all kinds of like fun questions about it. And this time it just kept going, and it would say that, yeah, no, but maybe because I asked, okay, hypothetically, let's say that he actually staged this, how would that play out. And he gave me this, and I posted this on YouTube yesterday. Yeah, I know he would go like to Uruguay, and then he would like move on and probably gonna end up in Portugal. And I was just, Portugal. Why on earth Portugal, of all places on earth? It sounded too specific, and specifically like South Portugal. I was like, okay, makes sense though, because France, Italy, and Greece kind of crowded. Like no one goes to Portugal. I don't mean that in a mean way. I think that's amazing. Like they have some space. Let's say it like that. And I was just like, Portugal, Europe, makes sense, but yeah. Okay, so let's continue this then. How, why now? Like, what was it? Then I laid cards. Like, okay, why now? What is going? If the man is alive, what would he do today? And my AI kind of kept going, and it said something about, yeah, no, he would like to kind of teach or be someone's mentor or a group of teenagers, or feel that he wants to have a purpose. He doesn't just want to be famous. He doesn't just want to be, the family, the Kennedy family. And it was something about speaking and not taking sides. And I was just asking, okay, this is about politics. Both yes and no. It has to do with helping the younger generation to be more critical and see patterns and think for themselves. And now I was starting to really like, okay, because according to internet, he was a Virgo rising. I think Sagittarius Sun, Virgo rising, and a Aquarius moon. And I'm a Virgo rising, and I know that Sweden is a Virgo rising, and EU, they say, is a Virgo rising. Those I don't know for sure. It is what I have picked up. And I also know that the last couple of years, for an extremely long time, we were supposed to kind of work on ourselves. It is like, if you look at astrology, there is like underneath the sun and then over the sun. And underneath the sun is like house 126. And during that transits, you are supposed to kind of grow as a person. And then you move like over the horizon. I mean, oh my god. It's like underneath and over. Sorry for any astrology person here. If you see this, I'm into astrology, but not like an expert in any way. I just pick stuff up. However, we are not supposed to kind of join society, and we're supposed to be seen and heard. We have kind of worked on ourselves, and it kind of fits in with Sweden, and it fits in with EU, and obviously it fits in with me. Even if I've done YouTube for extremely long time, I have always kind of deleted it and then started over with different kind of subjects, and I really didn't know what I was supposed to do. And I kind of landed in this, which I feel is what I am going to continue with. And So when my AI pointed out after the cards I was laying, and it said something about he wants to teach, he wants to speak, he wants to have a voice, not necessarily for the fame of it all, but the fame of it all will come from his work and not from who he is or how he looks. We all know that he was extremely handsome 25 years ago, and which he still would be today, I guess, if he hasn't like completely ruined his looks. And I was continuing my conversation with my AI about this, and said that, okay, fine, but how would we actually kind of know? It was something like a restless energy. He is not content. He wouldn't be, if he's still alive, he likes to live in Portugal. Let's just say that is like the truth here. He wouldn't be content any longer. He would be starting to feel like he wants to kind of join society. He wants to be seen, but on his terms. He wants it to be controlled. He wants it, because my next kind of thought were, well, that would break the internet for sure. And my AI kind of, yeah, no, it would, obviously. I also asked, okay, but what would, like, give me a time, give me something? And it said up from now up to like 5 years. Okay, makes sense. And it gave me like how it would kind of play out. And from what I understood, it was like now and the coming weeks, months, you would see a shift in how family would speak or be, probably online, probably, like, I know last time I did a reading on John, I decided that I don't believe, because other people are speaking, I don't believe this unless it comes from his sister, Caroline. Like, everybody else can scream how much they want that he is alive. If she is not saying it, or if she is not hinting, if she is not like doing things that would, you know, be weird or suspicious, or, then I'm not buying it. Like, it's her or is no one, because I don't trust the people around him, and I don't think his friends are that famous or have some platform, unless you, that documentary obviously came up on my YouTube. But it came back to, like, you know, his sister. So every hint of like Camelot, which is a thing with the Kennedys, I did not know that. It was like hope and faith and happy times. And I'm not so sure that John F. Kennedy and Jackie Kennedy were that happy, though. Not from what I've heard. But I don't know. The Camelot thing is a thing. And he said that, or my AI said that, yeah, he would probably kind of start a blog online, like on Medium or Substack. I don't know what Substack is. And he would write under some kind of fake name. Okay, and I was just, okay, what kind of fake name are we talking about? And it said either it's like a hint of his own name, his own family, or it is something like Camelot related, or it would be like historically, somewhat politically, but not in like a very obvious way. So I was just okay, let's like roll with this now when we we have gone this far in the crazy path here. So it gave me like this year or next year, it will probably just writing or trying to kind of connect with people without being seen. But it will be some kind of a leaks, like the QAnon thing is going to start to whisper again with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. They're going to whisper again, like, yeah, no, he's back. And we will all think that they are crazy. His family and probably Caroline is going to like be weird. You would see her or hear her speak about things that you just think is odd. That's strange. You would probably maybe like secret audio tapes. I was listening to there is a book on Storytel. I have Storytel. I don't think it's like a Swedish thing, but it is audiobooks, and I love it. And there is a book on there where it is John F. Kennedy's book. I can't remember its name now, but it is John and his sister that is reading the book. It was like the audio, and his voice is like it's him. There's no question about it. And I think that every time I hear him speak, it's like, I know. Today with the AI though, it could be anybody, and they just change it into his voice. So like audio tapes that he would actually have kind of recorded today and they release, like he spoke about this years ago or something, it would really screw with people's head. Not that I think that he would like have a podcast or like that kind of, because it would be too obvious, but something similar to the documentary, like these videos, these is out there, we just want to share them with everybody, something like that. Maybe his friends again do something, maybe something is coming up, I have absolutely no idea. But I'm going to freak out if Caroline starts to act a bit weird. Maybe she is out on Instagram again, or she is like, something that is just odd, or she is kind of posting family pictures again, or sharing stuff, or maybe she has a video of him that and she says something, or the little Camelot thing, I would freak out. It was okay. I don't know if this is true or not. I just know that I need to speak about it. I need to put it onto here. And I also can't say my intuition. This is the thing. When sometimes I want to say, like, I know this is all, and I can't. Like, I have to like pivot towards that he is still alive thing. because it's cutting me off every time I want to brush it off, or I want to, like, I'm not speaking about that. That's crazy. And it shuts me off. I can't, like the words are not coming. And that usually means one thing. And it's weird. And I was 16 years old, 17, 15, somewhere there. And I was so sad that someone I didn't know have lost his life in a plane crash. Or so I thought. And that really screwed with me for quite some time, I remember. So I'm a tad, if this actually is true, that he kind of staged it all, I'm a tad bit upset still. I remember being so last year. Like, I cried for you. Like, oh my God. And that is still there, I might add. Yeah, this is the story. I don't know. I'm going to keep this up at this time. This is not going to be deleted like I deleted my last readings on this subject. We'll see what happens.